Hello and welcome to Hotline Live with Record Sport. My name is Daniel Caw. I'm delighted this afternoon, over the moon, not to be joined by Keith Jackson, but to be joined by Andy Newport and Michael Gannon. Guys, how's it going?
Got a bit of a cold. I've got a bit of a cold, so
it's that time of year, isn't it?
So if you feel it, hear it, my noise, my voice a wee bit, then that's why, just in case.
Mick, you doing all right?
We're now joined live by Barry White over there.
Barry, something else.
Maybe rhymes with the Barry White.
That's the kind of comedy the viewers can expect over the next half hour or so.
Yeah, too much levity. Too much levity. It's just all serious here. Serious business now, Daniel.
Best place for us to start, I think, is Ibrox yesterday, Andy. I know you were there for Rangers 1-1 draw with Dundee United. I'm kind of running out of things to say. It just felt like the same movie again from Rangers at home.
I've just heated up for it. It was absolutely freezing there yesterday. I'm sure Michael was the same at Tynecastle last night. It's another performance where they waste their first half just by really going through the motions, slow, laboured, lacking any kind of craft or guile or any idea of how to break down a fairly organised, fairly decent Dundee United team. Obviously made a couple of changes at half time. I've just done my match report for tomorrow's paper and had a look through the numbers. It's the 13th time in 21 games this season that Philippe Clement has had to make changes at the interval. And there's been other games where he's made changes first half, and that's some of those have been down to injuries. But I think it's also just an indication that he's struggling to get to work out what the best way of lining this team up is. Mohamed Diamandi was in the number 10 position, and his drop off in quality and form has been quite alarming of late. I mean, it's a guy that came in, scored a couple of goals his first couple of appearances. I think Rangers fans were thinking they'd want to watch with this kid. He was a rough diamond, if you want to pardon the pun, but he was absolutely nowhere near any of those levels yesterday. Poor, must have given away possession, a dozen times at least. Cyril Dessers, and we've spoken enough about how erratic he can be, but again, he was anonymous, really didn't impose himself in the game in any way, and then obviously that leads to a couple of substitutions. Yanis Hadji comes on, and so does Danilo. But I mean, the Hadji one for me is perplexing, because if this was a guy that initially we were told wasn't part of Philippe Clement's plans because he was judged, he just didn't think he would involve him. Then obviously emerged there's a contract issue. But for me, on his performance yesterday, there's no way this guy should have been left out of the squad. I mean, he possesses everything that Rangers lack in terms of just that vision, that eye for a pass, the ability to play the pass. As soon as he comes on, Rangers look a different team, and obviously Danilo plays his part as well. He has a really bad miss, gets a cutback from Václav Černý that he should score, but in fairness to him, he plays a vital role in the goal. We 1-2 with Černý that gets some level, and then it's the Alamo, they sort of batter down the Dundee United's door for the last 20-25 minutes, and were it not for Jack Walton and the United goal, they probably would have got a result. But again, it's too little too late. They wasted 45 minutes by just sort of going through the motions, really. So obviously the team booed off at the end of both halves. It just really does feel like for Philippe Clement that this is you just see, you struggle to see how he's going to turn this situation around now, because it's been the same level of performance, not really even just this season. I mean, going back to pretty much that Motherwell game that turned out to be the start of the rot, performance levels have been pretty much the same all the way through. So I think, obviously there's talk of a couple of new execs coming in, new chairman, new chief exec coming in this weekend. I think they've got a pretty big decision to make once they finally get their feet under the table, because there's a malaise sitting in. You know, like obviously the game was 55 minutes late kicking off yesterday, and whether, you know, punters had seen enough at half time or they had ferries to catch, they had trains to catch, whatever. Half empty to start the second half, and I think that's the biggest alarm bells. You know, when there's just a resignation amongst the supporters now that this team are going absolutely nowhere. You know, 11 points behind Celtic. You know, most people will be, if they've got tickets for Hampden for the Premier Sports Cup final, will be going there with dread rather than anticipation, I imagine. So, yeah, there's a big decision to be made in terms of where this club goes, and especially who's in the dugout.
I've obviously got a ton of comments on Rangers from watchers, and I will get to them. Before we do that, though, I think we can hear a little bit from Philippe Clement himself after yesterday's game.
You said you've lost too many points. Can you understand?
Oh, he's taking a drink then. We lost Clement.
You said you've lost too many points. Can you understand the fans have given up on the title already, even this early in the season?
That's fans can think what they want, and that's their right also. I never give up if something is not possible, and I see also what I see in the second half. Everybody sees also what they see in the second half. We need to have that level much more in the next couple of months and take much more points. Of course, it's a big gap, and you don't know what other teams, how many points they lose along the way. But we need to get more points. And you see also, if you play like you played in the second half, you will get more points. But we need to put that as a standard for the team, for everybody. That's what I said in the dressing room also.
Well, there's some serious scrutiny in the manager and his position right now. I mean, as you as players, how does that feel when you see him having to face the kind of criticism that he's facing?
It's part and parcel of it. It's on all of us. Do you know what I mean? If you're not winning at Rangers, it's on all of us. Ultimately, the manager faces that, and he has to face that more than any of us. But it's on us all, and we're not in a position. We're not going to be pointing fingers, as I've said a minute ago. We've got to stick together. Completely understand the fans' frustration, rightly so. That turn up and support us everywhere we go. Horrible conditions, great conditions, whatever it may be. They expect to see more, and that's not just on the manager. That's on all of us.
If there's any positives today, I suppose it'll be Giannis coming on, Daniil coming on, and giving you a wee bit of the spark that's sort of been missing this season in the second half. Is that something that gives you any sort of crumb of sort of encouragement?
Look, there's lots of encouragement. I know when you say something like that, it's given where we sit. We have the tools, we have pieces like that are fantastic players that have been out, come back, injuries and whatnot, other people to come back as well. There's bright spots there. Even the lads that did come off at half time and the lads that played the whole game, whatever it may be, there's enough there, but we need to show it more often. The game then becomes like that, and they have quality. They have real quality, and in the end play a part in a really good goal. And what should have ultimately ended up being more goals, but what for putting ourselves in a difficult position, and you know, Jack Walton making some fantastic saves today, who's probably the best player on the pitch. Ends up being a difficult day. We created enough in the second half, but we can't be putting ourselves in that position as often as we have.
Right, I've got, as I said, a plethora of comments to work through, guys. Let me just fire through a couple and I'll bring these in. Paul Chambers watching live on YouTube. He has to go. His time is up. Team has no fight, no belief, and no style. Used to think Clement was the man. Now he's not got a snowball's chance in hell. If they're going to turn it around, he has to go. Rangers easy okay, again, watching live on YouTube. Now with the CEO and chairman imminent, they have to make the change now. The cup final could be a record scoreline if this clown is still in the dugout. The stadium was empty yesterday, and it wasn't because of the weather. Punters have had enough. The UB were chanting at the end that Rangers Football Club is in the wrong hands, and they are correct. And I'll finish just with this one. William McSee on Facebook. £10 million on Cortez Diamandi, £2 million in Proper, 2.7 on Agamani. Those are every bit as bad as Beale's 15 million on Dessers, Lammers and Danilo. And we promoted Coppin. Work that one out. Mick, if Clement is to turn this around, I can't recall any other Ulster manager in the modern era coming back from a spot like this.
No. I mean, you've got to admit he does look, and I mean, he looks done, doesn't he? I mean, and also you're talking about the new incoming CEO and chairman. If they're looking for a way to get over an instant impact with the fans and win the war straight away, what do? They bump the guy who's who's failing badly in the job. This is the manager. I know that's no quick fix sometimes, but at the moment, it looks like a club and a team that's flatlined. They keep talking about getting a reaction and a spark, and nothing seems to change. I mean, the problems that Rangers are now pretty obvious. They don't score enough goals. I mean, they've scored 17 goals in 12 league games. Teams have scored more than the league: Aberdeen, Dundee United, St Mirren. They're currently level on goals with St Johnstone, I think it is. You talk about chances they created. I mean, Philippe Clement's talking about a better second half. They created some chances. This is Rangers at Ibrox.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to create chances. They've got to score goals. They don't score enough goals. They don't create enough chances either. I mean, even
just on that, sorry, Mike, just on that, you're talking about 17 goals they scored. If you take out the 6 goals they scored against Ross County, they're averaging a goal a game. They've scored 11 goals in 11 games in those other fixtures.
Nowhere near enough. Nowhere near.
Rangers team so lacking in firepower. I mean, it's unbelievable that they've spent the money that they have in this squad, and this is what they're getting for it. But then again, we've known this from pre-season that Danilo was going to take time to get back up to fitness, that Hamza Agamani wasn't going to be ready to play a part. Clement said himself, that's what he spent a whacking big chunk of his transfer budget. I've spoken about it enough in this Hotline Live since the start of the season that they knew they had to get a centre forward and somebody to take some of the burden off. I would say the burden, but trying the burden off of Dessers, or somebody to be more reliable than Dessers. And he spent it on a kid coming from Africa that never been to Europe before, doesn't speak the language, is utterly unproven at this level. You know, it's just bizarre that they haven't addressed the glaring issues, and this is where they are because of it.
Listen, you can see it right through the team. I mean, they're also weak defensively. I mean, the goal yesterday was appalling. Again, standing off the man for the cross. I mean, the middle of defence and Hefty going AWOL. I mean, terrible goal to lose again as well. So defensively, they've been ropey. The middle of the park's not creative enough, and they don't score. And they've nothing cutting edge up front. The only thing they've got just now is Czerny. Czerny is literally a one-man band at the moment. I thought he showed signs of linking up well with Hadji yesterday in the second half. But at the moment, he's been the one player who seems to be getting a wee bit of joy. The rest of it, I mean, it's abysmal, really. The manager looks...
Again, you're going back to Hadji. Sorry, you're going back to Hadji as a guy that was pretty much discarded a year ago, wasn't good enough. Liam Balogun is arguably one of the better centre-backs, a guy that was discarded 2 years ago. This is where the recruitment has just fallen down, utterly broken down at this club. And as you say, as the texter says, and yet the guy that's responsible for this year's influx of signings has now been handed an even bigger remit. I mean, it make sense. It doesn't make much sense to me, to be honest, at the moment.
I just can't see any back for the manager. I mean, I do think, the incoming CEO, I mean, it's like starting a new job, come in with a box of donuts, isn't it? If you want to win over on the first day, say, right, sorry, Phil, off you pop. Come and sit down, work out a deal, see, get this misery ended. Because he actually said himself, Clement, in his comments yesterday, that this is a game that we'd have won last season. But you're basically admitting that you're worse. A year down the line, you're actually worse. I mean, actually now it's starting to amaze me how little it actually addresses the fact that he's on the line here. I mean, in contrast, we were at the Celtic AGM on Friday, and Brendan Rodgers asked about his own future, his contract, 18 months left. And he says, yeah, but I might get the bump, right? Like, a manager always knows that if they don't win games, they get the bump. Clement seems to be completely oblivious to the fact that this situation is so bad. I mean, his win ratio since that Motherwell game, I mean, I need to get through all the figures. I think he's dropped to around 50% win ratio as a Rangers manager.
Mm-hmm.
He can't survive with those numbers. He just simply can't. 11-point gap in November. I mean, Rangers managers have been fired for far less than this. And I get the reason why it's been a bit of a kind of holding pattern with the lack of a CEO and chairman. But they're now coming in, and their first decision is this guy got the tools to take us forward? There's very little evidence to suggest that's the case. He admits himself they are worse a year on. So, I mean, he signed his own death warrant with this kind of stuff.
A couple of more comments for you guys. George Robertson Says Andy Newport, Alan McGregor stunt double. I don't really see that myself, to be honest.
Wish I had his money. Let me put it that way.
Alan McGregor's a better striker.
I tell you what, I'm a better goalkeeper than you, Mike. Don't make me go into your money. I will happily recite that here to the watching viewers. At the time that you managed to chuck, how many goals that you chucked in? Was it 4? 4.
Listen, let's not recover old wins. One bad game in 15 years.
This one from Thomas Rooney, back onto the football. He says Rangers don't have 6 million to sack him. Now, whether or not it's 6 million, I don't know. But you touched on it, Andy, about Ibrox being half empty yesterday. Can they really? Is it getting to the stage now where they can't afford not to sack him?
Listen, I think I don't think there's a single person at Ibrox right now who expects their team to be competing for trophies this season. So this season is effectively written off already. Okay, they've made the final of the Premier Sports Cup, but they are still huge outsiders to lift that. So the sacking them right now, does it make that much of a difference? Or wait a few weeks, or do they need, even then, who do you appoint? Do you bring in somebody right away, or do you wait till the summer? Do you put in an interim? I don't think it makes much of a difference. I think Rangers are so far off being able to realistically look at themselves as being trophy winning contenders that I don't think it makes much of a difference. So listen, I can't see him seeing out the season. If things are, I totally agree with Mike. Things have reached a nadir, if you want to say that. It does look like he's got it in him to turn things around. It just he needs to be sort of put out of his misery in a sense. It requires somebody to come in and have the power to do that. It looks like John Gilligan, unless there's manoeuvres going on right now. I'm not sure that is the case, because I think he's on holiday at the moment, but I'm not sure that he's I'm not sure he's going to be the one that's going to pull the trigger. So it's going to be left to the new guys, whether it's Patrick Stewart or Malcolm Offord, the new chairman, coming in. So yeah, I mean, it's they just need to make a decision and then set a course for the future, because it's not going to be a quick fix. This is a club that has got so many issues that need to be addressed before they can even think about challenging for a title. So that, you know, whether it's this week or next month that Philippe Clement goes, it's not going to make much of a difference in the long run. This is a project that's going to take 2 or 3, maybe 3 seasons for Rangers at the very quickest to be back at a point where they can challenge. I think this is you're pretty much back at the situation when Steven Gerrard walked into the club. That's the sort of scale of the task, and you saw how long it took him to get Rangers back into winning. The only difference this time is, do the people behind the scenes have the same energy? Do the fans have the same patience that they showed Gerrard? I'm not sure that's the case.
Mm-hmm. Mick, just to play devil's advocate, is there any chance that Clement is so kind of certain that he's not getting sacked because he's been told, look, we're going to take these defeats, we're going to take short-term pain for long-term gain, and he fully believes that he'll be the man to take Rangers forward in the long term?
See, this is what kind of perplexed me a wee bit. There's the kind of slightly lack of awareness about how grim the situation is, because I say managers know. I mean, most managers, when they do get the dunk, they know that it's coming. I mean, it's not like it's. I mean, very, very seldom is it completely out the blue. Do you know what I mean? The crowds are dwindling. The ones that are there are fuming half the time. The performances now are. I mean, people talk about yesterday being a bad day. That's not. It wasn't a bad day for Rangers. It was a normal day for Rangers.
Yeah.
This has become the norm on a weekly basis, and it's all right saying things about hoping it might turn around. There has to be evidence that there's been progress, and there's no evidence of progress. There's regression at Rangers. So, I mean, talk about waiting another 2 weeks after the cup final. I mean, that might create a problem in itself. I mean, we can go out and get a result in the cup final. I mean, I know Andy's talking about to take 3 years or whatever to kind of get back to a level. I don't think it would take that long, because let's be honest, if you've got a £60 million wage bill in Scotland, you should be comfortably second at least and giving Celtic a game half a time. I mean, that shouldn't be that difficult, really.
It has been for a long while now.
It's been made difficult, yeah. But it shouldn't be. It shouldn't mean. Listen, when Rangers won the league by 20 odd points when Celtic hired Ange Postecoglou, it looked like Celtic were going to take 2 or 3 years to get back to level again because of the rebuild. The new manager came in, he had a bit of a dodgy start. All of a sudden, 12 months later, he's built a team that's won the title and kept on. They've won 3 since then. It's a problem he's got now is that Celtic are so strong in terms of on the pitch and off the pitch. So it is a tough task. But like I say, you hand a manager off his salt a £50 million wage bill in Scotland, you're going to be more than competitive on a weekly basis. Certainly better than 17 league goals in 12 games, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. It's just that's unacceptable. And it leaves me scratching my head how the manager saying this the second half, that's what I showed in the second half. Embarrassing. That's an embarrassing statement to make. That second half performance was literally a bare minimum performance. In fact, if that's the performance of a good Rangers team at the moment, I mean, my God, how bad is it? Because that is a bog standard second half. It should be. That is the bar at its very lowest level. So I mean, listen, he's not handled the pressure particularly well. I don't think the contract situation hasn't helped because this long-term contract has given him an extra layer of insulation that he probably didn't deserve. So he's probably quite comfortable in the fact that if he does get a tap on the shoulder, to get a decent payoff and he'll go back and get a job somewhere. I know Belgium has talked about the national team job might come round in the near future. So he's probably quite comfortable, which is probably why he's not talking about getting the sack and not kind of looking over his shoulder at the Grim Reaper every 2 minutes. But he certainly should be because he's failing badly at the moment.
Yes, indeed. Right, we could talk about Rangers for hours, judging by the comments that are coming in, but we kind of have to move on. And Mick, I know you were at Tynecastle yesterday. Let me throw this comment at you. Mark Nicholas Moore, Kilmarnock away, Hearts away. Both games Celtic did not play to our outstanding, phenomenal, world-class best, but we still won very comfortably. Celtic are the best team in the world right now and could go on and win the big cup in 2025. I like Mark's confidence. Not sure I'd go along with that, but
I do enjoy it. I do enjoy a Sunday in the pub right enough.
No, I mean,
it's been a while since I had one right enough, but it does sound like good fun.
3 points for Celtic. A really good day for them all in all. Yeah,
interesting game. I thought Hearts were terrific for maybe 45 minutes, nearly an hour. I thought they did a really good job on Celtic. You could tell, I mean, Celtic eventually flexed their muscles and the quality to see it out fairly comfortably. I think the first half, quite obvious. I mean, I think 8 starters in that team had been international duty, and most of them had been long haul. I mean, look at Hatate, Maida, Kyogo coming from the rest of the world. Trusty Johnson coming from across Atlantic, and it looked that way. They looked a bit leggy, a bit disjointed. It looked a bit jet lagged, to be honest. But I understand. I mean, you're thinking, why did Rodgers not just pick the guys that hadn't been long haul because he got a big enough squad? I think he wanted to put out his strongest team ahead of the game against Bruges. So I think he had to kind of absorb that early teething problems and they come back to the international break. But what they did is they always seem to do. They figured it out at half time. Hearts were pressing them and they were packing the midfield and they're doing a really good job. Cameron Devlin was all over kind of Callum McGregor. They're forcing turnovers, creating chances. Hearts, another one like Rangers, can he score a goal? I mean, literally in the final third, Hearts fans, no wonder they're pulling their hair out, completely blunt. They had a wee bit of a sharper edge than 2 up at half time, but they weren't, and you just felt the chances gone. They didn't take the early opportunities. They knew they were going to get punished. Sure enough, bang, 2 goals in a minute and a bit. The game was done. And it's minutes under the belt for guys coming back. And you get guys for the bench like Philippe Bernardo, who looked good off the bench. Adam Media come on, scored 2 goals, looked a handful, looked keen. It was just a kind of show of strength. And by the end, it was really, really comfortable. At a place that is a difficult place, regardless of where Hearts are in the league right now. It's just one of those ominous performances that Celtic weren't at it, but they figured a way and then were streets ahead. And but this is the difference when Celtic are slightly below par. They go to Tynecastle 1-4-1. When Aberdeen are slightly below par, they lose at Paisley. Rangers are below par. Well, when they shoot par these days, they drop points. But you know what I mean? If they're not at their best, they lose points. Whereas Celtic can drop down a level, but that level's still above most of the competition in Scotland, or it is above the rest of the competition in Scotland. So yeah, it was a game though. I'm glad to get through without too much drama.
But I mean, Andy, Tynecastle, if you're Rangers or Aberdeen fans looking at that yesterday, you'd have thought Tynecastle, one of the hardest places to go. Celtic have a good chance of dropping points. But I mean, Hearts, and we'll talk about Hibs as well, it's criminal the state that these two clubs are in at the minute. It's absolutely mad, I think.
I think it's a bit like the situation with Rangers just goes down to recruitment. You know, if you sign players that aren't good enough, this is what happens. When if you don't address glaring issues in your team, again, this is what happens. You know, again, like Rangers in terms of the requirement to bolster their attack, Hearts knew from last season that they were overly reliant on Lawrence Shankland. You know, obviously, his goals masked a lot of failings last season and took them to a third place. And you think, well, you know, they finished comfortably third. They've got money to spend with the European run coming up. You know, if they invest that wisely, bring in another striker, somebody else just to lighten the load off of him, then they can really kick on. But what they did is they haven't addressed that at all. And then what you aggression in Lawrence Shankland's performances. So, I mean, it's you know, it's, again, like Hibs, you know, just signing guys that aren't up to it, that don't seem to cotton on to the requirements. You know, these are big clubs. It takes a certain level of character to play for these clubs to deal with the pressure. Mm-hmm. And you know, both teams have failed miserably in that front, and this is what you're seeing. And you know, been asked a couple of times recently, is it conceivable that one or if not both of these teams could go down? Of course it is, because we've seen it before. We saw it in 2014 when both teams went down. We saw it more recently when Hearts went down after the COVID season. This is what happens when you start badly and you allow yourselves to get in a rut. And this is what both these teams are now. They're staring right down the barrel. Well, you know, more than a quarter of the season gone now, and if they don't turn these runs round, then you know they could be serious trouble.
I think Hearts are in better shape than Hibs. I know there's only a point between them, but I think they've got more chance of getting up this up the table. I mean, I think the manager, I think Neil Critchley is. I like what he's doing. I think you can see things on the pitch he's trying to do. My only concern is that he's trying to bring in a kind of pressing game, but you bring that in mid-season. It's difficult because what you're seeing is in the last few games, I see it in Europe as well with Hearts. They do it great for an hour and then they're completely clapped out. I mean, same yesterday against Celtic. Great pressing intensity for an hour and then they were jiggered. I think you need a full pre-season to get that kind of style implemented. So I think that's maybe something that's admirable but difficult to get across. I think he needs to kind of hang on to January and get in some forward reinforcements. I'll talk about this. We mentioned goals. They've scored 15 league goals this year at Hearts. I mean, even yesterday. I mean, Shankland's confidence is obviously affected by this run of form. He had a great chance last year. A house on putting it away, and he kind of duffed it wide. Yeah, but I think I can see the patterns of play. They've got enough in the squad. They've got some good players in that squad as well. I mean, James Penrice was terrific last night again as well. I like Blair Spittle. We can't Bell. I mean, I don't think he's the greatest technician on the ball, but he's full of energy and he can play that pressing game for 90 minutes and beyond. But I think they've got a bit more about them. Hibs, I mean, they need major surgery. They need a rescue mission. I think.
Can I just ask you about Shankland? You're talking about a pressing game. You're talking about something that requires sky high fitness levels just to keep going and press and put pressure on a team all the way through. And there's been grumbles this season over his conditioning, his sharpness, how fit he is. I mean, did you see signs of that again?
Yeah,
a guy that looks like he's not in peak condition.
When I say a pressing game, I don't mean pressing as in pressing up high at the pitch. I mean, there's ways you can press. I think it's more a midfield pressing game rather than up the pitch. I don't think you expect Shankland to be chasing shadows up there like a Kyogo or anything like that. That's just not his game. He has that kind of bulky look about him. He always has had, doesn't he? I mean, he's deceptively quick over a kind of a shorter period, shorter distance. I think he's just a bit lack of confidence, really. He had a couple of wee sniffs. He'd won the second half, even I think it was 2-0. When the ball kind of, it was a high press, actually won the ball back in the edge of the Celtic area, and it kind of fell to him, and he kind of And he took a split second to think. Last season, he doesn't think he rifles out the top corner. Whereas he took a second and he put it into Cammy Devlin, and Cammy Devlin get cowed out and it blocked. I think it was Austin Trusty blocked it. And these are the moments that a year ago Shankland's burying, not even thinking about it. So it's clearly on his mind. The longer these things go on. So, and he's a bit older. He's getting older as well. I don't think the contract stuff's helped him. Kind of eventually that's kind of caught up with him. Yeah. So I know what you're saying, Andy. I don't quite buy this kind of thing. Oh, he's come back overweight or he's let himself go and all that stuff. Because I certainly can't say that. It'd be some cheek if I said that. It's some brass neck for me to talk about that kind of thing. I just think he's looks a wee bit kind of out of sorts. It's the old cliche, isn't it? He needs the ball to spin up, hit him in the backside and spin it in the back of the net or something like that. But we'll see. He's struggling at the moment.
Time's getting away from us, right? But let me hit you with this, Andy. Kenny Doolan. Forget Gray, he's a good guy, but very little of this is his fault. Put Gordon, Kensel and Mackay in front of the camera. Let's hear what those clowns have to say. He's obviously referring to David Gray at Hibs. Look, you mentioned it before, Andy, but you look at all the teams that are kind of in the conversation for the relegation fight at the minute. Ross County showing signs of life. They beat Motherwell yesterday. St Johnstone as well, under a new manager, beat Kelly yesterday. Hibs at the minute just look totally devoid of anything. If you had to bet right now, you'd say, look, Hibs are going to go down.
Yeah, on current form, yeah, they will do. If form stays as it is, obviously there's things they can do. Obviously, there's now massive speculation over what happens with David Gray, but it's this rinse and repeat cycle of hiring managers and sacking them again a few months later. I mean, I think we're now reached the point. I think Hibs fans realise they've now reached the point of going, well, this can't just be about individual managers performing. This is something fundamental, systematic at the club that's going badly wrong. And at that point, you then have to turn your attention away from the dugout and go look at the boardroom and look at the director's box and go, well, what are you guys doing? Because at the end of the day, these guys keep making the same mistakes. They appoint guys, they appoint managers. It goes okay for a spell, then it goes wrong. I mean, this is something that's been going on for 4 or 5 years now. We're talking back to Jack Ross, to Sean Maloney, to Lee Johnson, to
Nick Montgomery.
We're what, 5, 6, 7 managers in now. So listen, I think it's something that this needs to address at boardroom level now. So I think the only way out of this is as if you've obviously got the Bournemouth guys in there and invested at Hibs. This is going to have to be something that they take a bigger say in and what the direction the club's going, because the one that's going at the moment isn't leading them anywhere.
That's a fair point. Before we finish as well, I feel like
probably the Hibs are far. I mean, I think unfortunately David Gray is going to carry the can at some point for this, but the problems go way beyond the dugout. I mean, the recruitment at Hibs has been absolutely abysmal. Mm-hmm. The money wasted on utter dross, and the alarm bells are ringing. First week, I think the first few weeks of the season, I've seen them, and they thought this team can't defend. They just cannot defend. I mean, it's the old Keystone Cop stuff. It has been all season. They are in big bother. The only thing that might get them out is they might get a few quid chucked at it in January. Whether it's David Gray in charge, it's starting to look very doubtful. But they'll invest in January and try and shore up. A new defence will be the first port of call in the shopping list. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Stevie McGonigal chimes in watching live on YouTube. Hibs need Scott Brown. That's an interesting shout. Before we finish though, I need to touch on Aberdeen, guys, because we are almost in December and Aberdeen have only just lost their first league game of the season. I get fans will be disappointed yesterday, poor result and what have you. But Mick, I mean, still having an incredible campaign.
Yeah, and they never win at St Mirren.
I think that's 7 seasons now they haven't won away at St Mirren.
It's talk about a bogey ground. I mean, that's and they find new and exciting ways to lose there and not win there as well every time they go there. I remember last season it was the Neil Warnock when they lost 2 goals in 98 minutes or something like that. And Healy's meltdown. St Mirren are a great bit of form now, aren't they? They're back to where we expect to see from St Mirren. They've come back to basics and they're back to the St Mirren we've seen in the last few seasons. Aberdeen, it's a tough game down there, and that's St Mirren are a good side. They've been a top 5, top 6 side for a couple of seasons now, and Stephen Robinson got them back doing what they do best, which has been really tough to play against, really effective. They've got guys with a bit of pace, a bit of power. Aberdeen, I've been impressed with Aberdeen's reaction to certain bumps in the road they've had. I mean, the defeat to Celtic at Hampden could have been a kind of, right, that's the fun stops now. They've had a bit of good run, that's it over. But they're back out and beat Dundee 4-0, didn't they, the following week?
Yeah.
So they've reacted well to kind of any dunce they've had. And I'm sure they will do it again. The only thing about Aberdeen is that you've been getting a lot of results. I mean, we talk about being clinical. And you're talking about Rangers and creating some chances and not taking them right. That's different. Aberdeen are a very high kind of ratio of goals to chances, right? Which is good, but it's not a sustainable way of playing, really. You can only get away with that for so long. You need to be creating chances on a regular basis, and you can't rely on being that clinical all the time. So there are going to be days when you're not that clinical, and you might slip up. So it was going to happen inevitably at some point. And like I say, if it's going to happen anywhere, it was happening at their bogey ground. That's for sure. But I don't have nothing to worry about. That's for sure. They've had a great season, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they will be. I mean, I struggle to keep pace with Celtic. I think as we all know, that's going to be a real difficult task. But I think they're going to be a side up and around there most of the season because they've got a lot of quality in the squad and a good manager.
And they've got time to crucially put their feet up over the next few weeks. I mean, Rangers are going to be absolutely at it full out from here on to the end of January. If they get through in Europe, it'll be until the end of February. At which point, Aberdeen can have their feet up through the midweeks and recharge. So, they've got that going for them. So, I agree with Mike. I still think it's a huge ask for Rangers to even get close to them. Never mind Celtic. It's
got to the stage now where if Aberdeen don't get second, it'll be a really disappointing outcome. Which it sounds mad to say. You wouldn't have thought that a few months ago.
That's a lot can happen. I mean, not long. In October last year, Rangers were 9 points behind Celtic. A manager was binned, and then by kind of March, they're top of the table. So it does show that quick turnarounds can happen. Can I see that happening this year? No, not unless it was that guy. Not unless I was sitting next to that guy in the pub all afternoon saying Celtic would win the World Cup. I can't see it this year, but it does show you things can turn quite quickly. And that's Aberdeen will have a wee period when they get a run of games when it doesn't quite go for them. But Andy touched on it. The big question is can Rangers capitalise? And we're back to talking about the title race. I mean, Clement talking about still being in the race. 11 points Celtic need to drop points in 4 more games than Rangers.
Yeah.
Now on in, can you see that happening?
Nope.
You're not looking at. I mean, you're only 12 games in, but Celtic have done it before. Can anyone beat this Celtic team? You've seen them when they play poorly.
I think they'll lose games. I mean, they will get beat at some point. They will get beat at some point. I mean, especially this next run, and you touched on it there now. The next run is fairly brutal for Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts as well. I mean, it's going to be hands to the pump in Europe, and then big games coming thick and fast. So the squads are going to get stretched. There will be days when they're going to slip up, I think, but they'll all slip up because it's only natural the workload. But Celtic squad will get them through most of these games. Aberdeen actually got a lot of strength and depth. I mean, they've got a bit more in the bench, I think. Whereas I think Rangers are the ones that get the problem. Once you get beyond a few of these guys, they're going to be in bother, I think.
Mm-hmm. Look, guys, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of Sunday's Hotline Live with Record Sport. If you're watching at home, we really appreciate it, and thank you for sending in all of the comments. Andy, Mick, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Daniel.
No worries. Enjoy your Sunday dinner, boys.
Yep, you too. And we'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Cheers.